How to double your salary, part 16. While we are focusing on how to win the interviews, there is something called a half step and jump. So, what is this half step and jump? In athletics, we go for a high jump, but there is a sport where you take one step and then you run and then you go for the second step. This is called half step and jump. Here the secret is giving a gap between the first jump and the second jump, and the first jump will be a little shorter, and then it gives you the momentum, and then go for the next jump. Similarly, in your career also, not all jumps can be bigger. You have to plan in such a way. Sometimes you may have to uh, do a half step and jump. Like, for example, I did when I was working for a petrochemical company, when I wanted to look for a senior position in the refineries on a long term basis. So, to gain that experience as the head of the process, I moved into a, a short term job where I gained the experience in the refinery. Then I worked for a project where I gained the project experience before I took up a mega project job in a senior position. So the the first jump from petrochemical to the refinery was position wise, responsibility wise, project wise is big, but that was a short assignment, which of course the project had to be abandoned due to some financial problems. The second one was a big company, which is like Bahrain Petroleum Company, where I worked in major projects also. But that was also a short-term stay for me. And these two are the stepping stones for my next job, a mega project of $2 billion of SR oil. So I call this technique of making two short changes for before I make a big jump, a half step and jump. The other thing is which I want to discuss, of course, in next chapter is uh, career ladder versus career building. Okay, and what is the difference? A career ladder is already existing in a company. All major companies will have a career progress for the design for the employees based on their skills, abilities, and requirement of the company. And career building is like building brick by brick as per your requirement. So my career progress is not based on the career ladder wherein I used the company's career ladder to go up, but I built my own career by shifting jobs. Okay, so in doing so, you got to plan very well. So before we go to the next chapter, let us sum it up on this third chapter. How do we get into the uh, interviews, win them? We have to wait for the big catch sometimes instead of waiting for looking for a quick jump, which is of course explained in the half step and jump. The other one is that we have to do a lot of homework before we interview. Okay, I recall one Sun Oil company in the late 50s bagged a major contract in a Latin American country where they got the contract against odds of major oil companies like Shell, BP, and Mobil, etc. Only because they went to the country and they surveyed their requirement. They require some grains, and they were having some short supply of food. So they have given their proposal uh, for oil drilling along with the grain supply. So sometimes you got to know what is the requirement of the company to give them. The one major job I got, it was my Shell was looking for a quick replacement for a British engineer, and then I knew that they were looking for a job, and then I just fit into their bill, and it was easy walk-in for me. The other place where I got into one uh, engineering company called Petrofac, was they were looking for a refinery specialist for Mediterranean and Russian territories. So, as head of the process in Sharjah refinery, I could just walk into the chamber of the president one day and then negotiate my uh, next job. So it's a matter of few hours. I could just change my job. So, as my wife uh, puts it, you went out for a stroll and then came with a job offer. Incidentally, the Petrify company was just about few hundred yards from my home in Sharjah. Uh, Before we close this, we will sum up the suggested actions for winning interviews. Uh, Regularly look for job openings, even though you don't need one. Uh, Sometimes when you get a job, you can offer it to your friends or bosses or even staff, but then you will have an idea what is your market price, and also you will be in touch with this the latest trends in the job. So do your homework. Second one, to do your homework before interview to understand the needs of the company and prospect of the company. Third one is, remember that success ratio of applications to getting selected is will be very low. And one thing I always mm, you know tell people is that uh, we don't have to answer all the questions. Sometimes by listening to the interviewer, we will get a good idea of what they're looking for. Okay. So I recall my first interview with Baba Atomic Research Center, where the interviewer dropped a pencil and asked me what happens to the entropy of the pencil. So I didn't have a clue. I asked innocently, what happens? The interviewer explained patiently, and I learnt a lesson. All natural processes have an entropy increase. In spite of knowing the answer, I couldn't give a right answer to the interviewer because the interviewer cleverly asked the question. I appreciated the interviewer and accepted that there is a lot to learn. Though I did not get a job, I got a smile of approval and later realized striking relation with the interviewer is important in winning the interviews. Remember, good attitude is an asset in any interview. Interviews are interviews are insight into the mind of interviewee. What you answer is not important, but how you answer is uh, is important. Uh, as the wise say, what we say is not as important as how we say. And I would add, how we say is not as important as when we say, and depending on the mood of the people. So this is how this chapter 3, how to win interviews, ends. And the next chapter 4 is, as I said, is career ladder versus career building, and that gives to the makes us into the next part, that is called preparation and execution. So the first three chapters which we have gone through are basically for the preparation and execution, which covered my early childhood, and the second chapter of the first 10 years of my struggle, and third one is about the interviewing techniques. Now this is part 2, uh, uh, is a preparation and execution, and I will give my own quotation before we enter the chapter 4 in the next part of this episode. Uh, to achieve anything in life, we need clarity of thought, then a strategy to achieve it. Most important is developing a right attitude and action plan and regular review of the same and see we are on the right track. Uh, okay, so here ends the part 16 and also the chapter 3. So next one we'll take it up, career ladder versus career building, which is an interesting way. I would say that one has to plan his or her career to achieve what you want to achieve. If you wait for the company to grow and the company to give you the career ladder, sometimes it is possible, sometimes it may not be possible. Of course, there are people who grow with the company. If the company is growing by leaps and bounds like Amazon and the other ones, it's fine. But if you join a company like Intel or IBM, which are already established companies, then growth may not be very high. So career building is a much better way than using the existing career ladder. Okay, thank you. Let's close the this part 16 now. Bye. Signing off, Rajsekar Polapragada, the author of this W.